The big boss man said cleanup's done, signed a paper, shook hands, packed up and run. They cut the ribbon, took their prize, but the ground still burns and the river still cries. Said we got it sealed, it's locked up tight, but I see the cracks in the pale moonlight. Ain't no steel strong enough, no law so bold to hold back fire 1,000 years old. Lou Batty Burn, they said he'd heal. Monday morning they closed the deal. Doctors talked, but the paycheck spoke, and the truth went up in a cloud of smoke. They called it safe, they called it sound. Now the waste runs deep, so they cut the ground. Another grave, another name, another worker lost to the same old game.
Hello everybody, welcome back.
The fence was signed so bright, said stay out, it ain't alright. But kids see fences like a dare. If it's so safe, what you hiding there?
I was already producing it when I found out about it. I watched the video, now we're doing a video about the same guy.
Ain't no guard to watch
He's an absurd apologist for the nuclear industry. It's just absurd, but it's quite the story we got. We're gonna do another audit type show. We're gonna audit Smarter Every Day's latest nuclear video. It's only 8 hours old. It's got almost 200,000 views already. Here we go. Almost. I'm Dana Durnford, by the way, and you call in at 709-589-4406 to these live presentations. How to think about radiation. Imagine being told how to think. Imagine the kind of arrogance that you gotta have to even go down that particular road, how to think about radiation. That's what we do, I suppose. I'm the same guy. I'm just an honest person. Unlike Smarter Every Day is Stupider Every Day, if you watch that show. It's really something.
I'm about to show you a video of the moment when two nuclear plant workers tell me how they really feel about the safety of their job.
Well, why wouldn't you use a nuclear scientist? Why would you use a nuclear worker with a high school education? Because that's what both of those people got he's talking about. Why is it all the pro-nuclear apologists will go that route instead of actually using a nuclear scientist? He's got almost 12 million subscribers. What does that tell us? It's just something, you know? I got 12 people on my show, so take that. So let's go over to the screen here. Congenital heart disease operations rose 14% after Fukushima nuclear power plant broke down. It means 14,200 children need open heart surgery after their power plant broke down for complex congenital heart diseases. But according to this creature, it's completely harmless. Like dog poo, actually, is his version of it. Well, we got some studies about dogs.
I wish the whole public knew how safe what we really did was, considering how dangerous what we're dealing with is. You agree?
I wish the public knew how safe everything was. Well, a few people, they take the reactor cores out of the reactor, quite a big chunk of it every 14 months or so, And you put it in a pool where it's no containment. And it's splitting atoms directly into the environment. These people are using millirims of all things. This completely outdated terminology. And you're not worried about millirims, you're worried about anthropogenic radiation, the actual physical atoms, and ingesting that or landing close to you or your loved ones or your communities.
Agree with that?
Yeah, that's
Here we go. You got most of it edited down. There's still 15 minutes left. 70% of the children tested in Kanto, which is Tokyo, 36 million people, have radioactive cesium in the urine because their nuclear power plant broke down. Eventually, they'll get sick and die from that.
absolutely.
I think nuclear power would be tenfold what it is today if we had done a much better job of educating the public.
A better job of lying to the... Well, you've done an amazing job. You got smarter every day out there wrecking everybody. Ability to be rational. Which joins a long list of apologists for the nuclear industry. The media is behind me, SABC Australia, Cecilia Vega. All of these medias are pretending they're 150 feet above Reactor 4 at Fukushima. It's like, why am I still I made this depiction in 2013, 11 years ago, give or take a few months. Why are we still, how come this is still a thing? Why are they never held accountable? And should people like this guy who comes out and tells all kinds of lies for the nuclear industry be described as a terrorist? Isn't what he's doing terrorism? Shouldn't he be at Guantanamo Bay getting waterboarded?
A lot of people come to me and ask me, what is nuclear dangerous? I'm like, the people that I know, they retire out, they die of other natural causes, not related. It's not cancer. We don't have all these issues,
Nobody died of cancer at the nuclear plant. We should all move there. The reason the hospitals are full of children with cancer is because of your nuclear power plants. They're surrounded by farms. What a thing to say, eh? People at nuclear power plants don't get sick and die of anything on nature. No cancer here. Could be 5,000 people work there every decade. No cancer here. It's just absurd that somebody could say something like that. Extreme increase in mortality caused by cardiac diseases in Japan. The death rates might give the creeps to some people.
You'll hear a lot of propaganda sometimes outside of nuclear, but it's just it's one of the safest things that we ever do.
One of the safest things we ever do, really? Think about this headline here. Disinformation by nuclear proponents try to confuse the public. My goodness.
For the most part, it's a very low amount of dose. Occupational dose is exceptionally low, right? So,
Yeah.
So I mean, for example, we're talking operating a milliram over here, like a chest X-ray's 10 milliram, maybe.
A single X-ray.
Single chest X-ray is like 10 milliram.
Got it.
And I won't see that in a year, maybe, depending on what you do. Some people will see more than that, but
A milliram, nobody even uses that terminology. These people are, before you go to the nuclear power plant, you have to take a radiation course. And these are the buffoons that they got working there. By the way, millisieverts is how you would describe a chest X-ray, and it would be multiple millisieverts, which is 1,000 microsieverts. And a microsievert is equivalent to a milliram, right? Comparisons with X-rays and CAT scans are meaningless. Inhaling a particle increases the radiation exposure by a factor of 1 trillion. This is an expert. And these people are not experts at all. They got a high school education.
In this video, you and I are going to enter this nuclear power plant into a special area of the plant that has both contamination and radiation. And the hope is that when we're armed with this new understanding, we're going to be just as confident as these gentlemen are.
He's the creepiest thing I've ever seen. And I've seen creepy. You've seen creepy on this side with the people we covered. Holy smokes. Astounding levels of radiation were measured in the United States from Fukushima nuclear power plant, 6,000 miles away, was 500,000 times what was considered normal. We've never seen anything close to that. And the concentrations went up and up every day. Now, they're talking about physical atoms. You breathe it in, it attacks all your cells, all your organs. Every second is pulsing energy at the speed of light. And it's destroying your chromosomes, your DNA, and your body tries to repair it every second and can't keep up with it. And then it has to attack, your body attacks the source, and it does all this with white blood cells. So there's an instant effect because white blood cells displace your red blood cells. Your red blood cells carry oxygen nutrition. So the more you get into you, the more you're exposed, the more is around you, the more white blood cells you're producing, the less oxygen, the less nutrition you have in your body. So it's a permanent thing because it does this for the rest of your life until it builds a tumor around it. And even then, it never stops sending white blood cells, trying to repair the damage to your chromosomes, your DNA, and your cells. There's a real effect, right? And when these numbers we're talking about, 500,000 times our normal levels, that's a certain isotope we're talking about. It was 220 million atoms per liter of rainfall of iodine-129 with a 15 million year half-life. And so when you hear people talking about millirems, and these are the typically very dishonest people. Millirems are real, don't get me wrong. But all nuclear power plants are hemorrhaging radiation from the reactor cores into fuel pools with no containment. Because when you take the reactor out, it's still splitting atoms for millions of years, and those atoms can't be contained, and they're released. That's why almost every nuclear power plant, except for a few, are surrounded by farms. Like, I hate doing these types of videos because they're meant to work, but it's disappointing to see people like that actually exist that hate us so much.
Let's go get smarter every day and learn more about nuclear power.
This is the very, very, very last person on the entire planet you want to be trusting when it comes to radiation. New York Times, 2013, we have Fukushima nuclear power plant polluting the entire Pacific Ocean. And we're talking about how people should be dressed. This was an influential actor. Just bear with me. I'll do that again. We have Fukushima polluting the entire Pacific Ocean. This was an influential actor in the New York Times, 2013. We have Fukushima radioactive fallout from their broken power plant, polluting the entire Pacific, which is the biggest body of water on the entire planet. We launched research expeditions. The species to your left are missing. Fukushima, the nuclear power plant in Fukushima killed the species. So I was on the ocean for 6 years from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska, 4 to 5 months a year, doing species counts without going home. And the reason I've done it for so long was because the species to your left are missing. And you're talking about an extinction event for these species. These species are permanently gone. If you didn't get a picture pre-Fukushima, you'll never ever be able to take a picture post-Fukushima because of the radioactive fallout from the broken power plant. So I went back for 6 more years to see if those species start to recover. And it got worse each year till there was nothing left. And this is the technology Smarter Every Day is promoting. So he can live an exorbitant lifestyle. And he say that the radiation caused cancer to spread from one species to another species like a virus. Did you know cancer is not a virus? It doesn't spread to one species to another. So why would the nuclear industry go, well, the effects was like a cancer, but it wasn't cancer that killed all of these species to your left.
This is the second video in this series,
think?
and today we're going to do something really cool. We're going to go to Browns Ferry Nuclear Power Plant.
Listen to the way he's talking. Who do you think he's targeting when he's using these types of soundtracks? He's targeting kids, right? So it's extremely important. And as you can see, I got no views. That's why we're going to be doing lectures in universities now, because I'll have more people in the lecture hall than I will on YouTube. I'll also be doing YouTube. 19 people. I have more than that in my lecture halls every day, but I get 19 views because of the censorship. Meanwhile, Smarter Every Day, he's only been 10 hours. He's got 188,000 views because he's destroying the future of everybody. Should YouTubers who lie and downplay radiation poisoning to protect the nuclear industry and to make bank and get his subscribers and everybody else to support him be labeled as terrorism? Because that's what what he's doing is terrorism. It's shocking that people like that are allowed to exist, but there's thousands of these people. We cover them all the time here. Well, you can call them people, but they don't have they don't have the same attributes as a human. They hate us for some reason. He hates kids, even though he has them, and he put his own kids in the video full of lies, man. My goodness. What kind of a creature would do something like that? Officials sharply raised the radiation levels for residents to get iodine pills after the meltdown, 75 times higher than the World Health Organization recommends for children. 75 times higher. And the officials would have been like the guys who were speaking earlier for this guy. Like these guys here, they're the officials. So if they have a nuclear accident, they'll raise the limits to where there's no way your children and your community is not going to get sick.
This is Bill Ball. Bill was introduced to nuclear power at the plant where his dad worked. He then went into the Navy with nuclear submarines, and now he runs a team at Browns Ferry that's in charge of making sure the plant is operational. This is my longtime buddy, Philip. We've known each other forever. He's been on my phone for over a decade simply as Neutron.
For a decade, which is 10 years, but the picture shows him young, I guess.
Because he works at the nuclear plant, and
because he works at the nuclear plant, he's got a cool handle like Neutron. So what does he name his friends who work at the coal plant? Coalhead? Or the oil plant, Leaky?
always wanted to see what he does.
I always wanted to see what he does. Radioactive dust reported in Tokyo, 200 kilometers plus away from Fukushima, at 4,000 atoms, not millirims, but 4,000 physical atoms. If you get one of them in your body, eventually you'll end up, or your kid or your loved one, with a cancer or a bird or an animal. Or over 4,000 atoms a kilogram of cesium. You can't just have cesium, which is a gamma. The contamination never disappears. Be careful. Well, all you got to do is come over to this subhuman species, and he'll tell you everything is like harmless.
It's very, very different because I had to take training, and it wasn't just like, oh, sit down and let us talk to you for a few minutes. We're talking hours and hours and hours of computer-based training that we had to go through in order to get access to this place, and they gave us an exam. We had to take an exam to make sure we could do it. This was far more intense than I expected. This was just day one of training.
man, some hard cases. U.S. banned agricultural fishery products from 14 prefectures in Japan because the radioactive fallout contaminated half the country. They didn't move the people out of there, they just banned the food. So they left all the schools and the children there to get sick and die eventually. Half the country, 14 prefectures. It wasn't just the United States, it was 55 countries banned the food in half the country. Not Canada. Canada's not a real country. We removed all restrictions. And so now we have obesity rates approaching 90%, which is a marker of radioactive brain damage after radioactive event. In the United States, it's up to 74% obesity rates. Here in Canada, it's 90%. And it's shocking, really.
Well, nuclear fission. We talked about this in the first episode. Uranium-235 splits into multiple atoms, and when it does that, there's this release of a tremendous amount of energy, right?
Tremendous.
But we didn't really
energy.
talk about the radiation that's released as well, but that's also a thing. So we have this event, and we have these daughter products of...
Daughter products. So a daughter is somebody to cherish, somebody to protect, right? Radiation will destroy your daughter. There's 6 times more breast cancer within 15 miles of a nuclear power plant. Radiation hates your daughters, and particularly children. They're thousands of times more vulnerable. And so he's using children caricatures. He's talking childish, like he's talking to children. He's advertising for children. Truly one of the lowest form of lives I've ever come across. Almost the entire city, 300,000 people, had radiation levels high enough to get decontaminated by the government. You can't get decontaminated from radiation. And the government is not your friend. In fact, the scariest thing anybody can say to you, hang on, or we're from the government, we're here to help. That's the scariest. It's same as him. I'm here to help. He's not here to help you.
Uranium-235 splitting, but we also have radiation. And what they do in a nuclear plant is they control the areas where this radiation happens, and it's called the Radiologically Controlled Area, the RCA.
Well, that's simply not true. It's true when it's brand new. The first time they take, after 14 months, they're going to take fuel from the reactor core and put it in a pool. It's going to boil off 120,000 liters a day into the community, and every liter is going to be saturated with trillions of isotopes. And anybody who gets that into them, you're going to compromise their immune systems, or birds, or animals, or fish, or anything else. It's surreal that somebody can consider this as a way to make money on YouTube by coming out and indoctrinating. He's got almost 12 million, he'll probably have 12 million subscribers tomorrow. He gets more views on one video I got on my site for the last 2 years. He's the man. He's his kids' heroes, but in reality, he's the worst human conceivable. What he's doing is unconscionable. He should take the video down because it's unconscionable to do what he's doing. Instead, he'll probably take mine down. Former Japan official, we're recording it, we'll post it somewhere else too besides here. Japan official, unstoppable contamination of Pacific Ocean. Because your power plant breaks down, no big deal, but if it's nuclear, it's an unstoppable contamination of the Pacific Ocean. And it's menacing the other side of the ocean, the West Coast. And not only that, it's undeniably a global security issue from radioactive fallout. Waves of radiation will be 10 times more than the entire world's nuclear tests combined. That was 2015 story. It's so far worse than that. It's orders of magnitudes worse than that, unfortunately.
In the RCA, there's multiple types of radiation that can affect biological life and cells in your body, and they control them in different ways. Let's talk about the 4 types of radiation. The first one I want to talk about is called alpha. Alpha radiation happens when the components off these atoms fly off and you get something that looks like the nucleus of a helium atom, right?
So what does a kid know? He knows about helium. It's in his balloons for his birthday parties, right? Sure, like what he's doing, I doubt highly he came up with any of this on his own. This looks like the bozos he's already introduced you to, gave him a whole bunch of documentations. Here, make a video of this. Radioactive material from the reactors, the same atom he's talking about, is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poisons. The harm caused by nuclear disasters, like their power plant breaking down, is greater than any work of man. It's like explosions going off in your cells, blowing holes in your DNA, in your cells, and your chromosomes every second for the rest of your lives. He's going to make a fortune off this video. That video has already gone viral.
2 protons, 2 neutrons, so it's really big. Got a little excited with the model. There's an extra neutron. Pretend that.
They're all the same size. You can't separate one from the other. You can put 200 million on the head of a needle, you can't see it. So to suggest that is big, again, right, this is, I just don't understand why people choose to be evil.
It's not there.
You don't have to. He's got almost 12 million subscribers. Make a video about anything. Make a video about cutting his lawn and you'll still make just as much money. It's 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison on the same size atom that he's showing you there, like a physical atom. And you put 200 million on the head of a needle, you can't see it. It's catastrophic to every pet, every puppy, every kitty, every human, every bird, every animal, every mammal, particularly children, particularly the babies of all the species. That's why this planet is now facing an extinction.
And it can fly off, but it's easy to stop. It can be stopped by something as simple as paper. So,
how many times have you heard this? It can be stopped by paper. So what he's going to do is try to denigrate each isotope, each gammas, neutrons, alphas, and betas. Radiation like explosion is going off in the cell, blowing holes. So the radiation pulses energy every second. It doesn't matter if paper can stop it. It's blowing holes in your cells, your chromosomes, and your DNA in every direction each second. Your body has to repair that every second. And that's forever. Eventually, your body will build a tumor around it. Even though it's that particular emitter can be stopped by a piece of paper per se, it's still pulsing energy for millions of years. And if they incinerate you, you release it back into the environment to find something else and hurt it forever.
right? So you can't stop beta with paper. You can stop it with plastic, though, which is why I think this is very interesting. You'll see people in nuclear plants wearing safety glasses.
I'm going to stop the video there because this is absurd to say what he's going to say. I played it a couple of times and I was like, how do you get this evil? How does that actually work, I wonder? So he's trying to convince the kids that are going to watch his video, he's targeting, that the workers are okay because they're wearing safety glasses, not for dust or sawdust or something, because the pulsing of the energy is stopped by the glasses. But gamma and neutron will pulse right through his head, right through his brain and his bones, and radiate everybody stood up behind him in the same sample. Like, it's hard to believe somebody actually said what he's going to say here.
And it's not that they're trying to protect from, cutting things with a saw or anything like that. They're literally wearing safety glasses because this plastic, this polycarbonate right here, can stop beta radiation.
Stop it. Stop beta. Well, it won't stop this beta. 2 sieverts an hour of beta radiation from a single liter of water at Fukushima. So 2 liters... If you sat there for a few minutes, you'll melt your organs. It's the same beta that he's talking about. Except this is real. What he's telling you is not. It's hard to, like, you better hope that I don't get real popular, because we'll litigate this guy. We'll get him off of YouTube, and we'll get the rules changed, the laws changed eventually, that these people could be labeled as terrorists.
It's very interesting. Beta is bad to get in your body. You don't want to ingest it. You don't want it in your eyes, things like that. So beta is something that you can stop with something as simple as plastic.
That's absurd that somebody would do that. Man, you gotta be a sicko to say something like that. That's holy smoke stuff. That's crazy. Children with 11 atoms. You put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, you can't see it. 11 of them per kilogram of their diet, they'll see heart problems. And 50, they'll have permanent holes in your hearts.
The third type of radiation that I want to look at, I think is probably the most interesting to me, and that's gamma radiation.
Now, gamma radiation will pulse 600 feet every second in every direction. It'll pulse through your neighbor's house, through their house, and irradiate you in your bed all night long and all day.
The third type of radiation that I want to look at, I think is probably the most...
Radiation levels on the West Coast spiked to 1 million times normal. This was gamma. And this is physical atoms. You had 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. Each atom is pulsing energy almost at the speed of light every second. 600 feet. And so gammas and alphas and neutrons and betas, they pulse energy at the speed of light, almost just shy of the speed of light each. It's different type of energy, and when they hit each other, instead of like passing through each other, they reflect off each other. So almost the speed of light, boom. And that effect is known as an X-ray. And so all the species in the forest are getting full body X-rays. Hi, everybody. Yeah, there you go. James Lewis says, manipulators should be a word. It should be tattooed across his forehead. I love it. I just love that. And then they got to be dyed, their skin and their hair dyed some awful color so you can see them from afar. And they got to wear an ankle monitor. Cesium-137 levels increased 1 million, 10 million times post-Fukushima. And cesium, by the way, immediately damages the heart muscles. It's not slow acting. So you're talking about a plume that covered the entire planet.
Gamma radiation is not a particle. It's a wave, a very high frequency wave. It's higher frequency even than X-rays. It can go through paper like it's nothing. It can go through plastic, all the way through plastic. It goes all the way, and you're typically going to want to stop gamma with something like lead. You know how when you...
And that strip that's representing lead is nowhere near thick enough. Neither is the cement, which is the next one. Here's the plume. According to the French government, this was a spike. This was a study. This was documented. This is the documentation. This is based on 31 days of radioactive fallout. And you're talking about 1 million to 10 million times pre-Fukushima radioactive fallout of cesium-137 per cubic meter of air covering the entire planet. This is 30 days of radioactive fallout. So this is never going to go away. This is why typically you're not cleaning the insects off your windshields anymore.
Can penetrate things kind of like X-rays, but even more energetic. So
now the X-rays are caused also from gammas, alphas, neutrons, and betas pulsing and hitting each other and changing direction. That's a full body X-ray. All the species in the meadows and the forests and communities are getting, including us.
Go to the dentist and they put this lead apron on you to stop the X-rays.
That doesn't work, and they stop using it. Lead aprons offer little protection during X-rays, so why do so many clinics keep using them? An apron, and there's something insidious about this too. Get a load of this coming up. It's an outdated practice putting an apron over parts of your body to protect it from radiation. The American Association of Physicists in Medicine no longer supports shielding patients' reproductive organs and fetuses during imaging studies that use radiation like x-rays and CAT scans. And changing the practice has been a near impossible feat because you've got creatures like this.
Go to the dentist and they put this lead apron on you to stop the x-ray.
One of the downsides is that when you put this lead shielding over your body, it obscures the imaging field of the machines, leading to an unusable x-ray or CAT scan, requiring the patient to have another one. And this increases his or her radiation exposure. One study found that shields were misplaced half the time during pelvic x-rays and often obscured the important bony landmarks.
Well, gamma is higher frequency than x-rays, and
this was the most concerning thing about those so-called shields. Another concern is most imaging machines that use radiation automatically determine the dose of radiation required to produce a successful image. It means if the machine senses a shield, it increases the dose of radiation in an effort to get an X-ray, leading to an increase, or image from a CAT scan, leading to an increase in radiation exposures. Right, so think about this. When you put the shield on it, like it's meant to protect a certain part of your body. And so this machine now will crank it up extremely high to get through the shield. So your face, your head, your neck, your whole body's getting, your children, your friends, your loved ones, your parents. Humanity is getting brutal, catastrophic doses of radiation for decades and decades and decades and decades of this technology that shouldn't even exist. You can use very powerful lights and computer software now. You get a better image than any X-ray ever would.
it has to be stopped with something like lead. Okay, so we have alpha, beta, gamma. There's another one that's fascinating, and that is neutron radiation. Do you remember in the first episode we talked about this little guy? Wee! Little.
So who do you think he's trying to appeal to when he wee? He's telling children perpetual, dangerous, criminal lies. It's just, it's hard to believe someone like this can exist. Children with over 11 atoms a kilogram start to see heart problems.
It has to be stopped with something like lead. Okay, so we have alpha, beta, gamma. There's another one that's fascinating, and that is neutron radiation. Do you remember in the first episode we talked about this little guy? Wee! Little.
Well, the X-rays, the lead doesn't work, right? It destroys the person.
Fast neutron? Well, neutron radiation comes off of this event, and they're very, very fast, and they can go through all kinds of stuff. They're going to go past your paper, past your plastic, even lead. They usually have to be stopped by concrete, specifically concrete that has a high water content. An interesting thing about neutron radiation is it interacts with hydrogen atoms quite a bit, and that slows it down. And so if we had water, you could slow down neutrons.
Yeah, but it doesn't slow it enough. Look at this emaciated killer whale from a few weeks ago. The peanut head, its rib cages are sticking out. Its shoulder bones are sticking out. It died of starvation. Like all the gray whales right now on a migratory trip north are emaciated. They had no surviving babies last year. Now there's only 13,000 left. There was 27,000 in 2016. That's 52% of the whales have died. 90% of them that we covered since then have been undeniable emaciation. But all the whales now are emaciated, and it's not just the gray whales. So his version of water is again, that indoctrination
with water.
is just
And so
shocking.
the people that work in a radiologically controlled area, they understand all the physics associated with alpha, beta, gamma, and neutron radiation, and they can control the environment by different types of shielding.
He didn't learn any of this. I mean, like, this is propaganda typical from the industry, but this is extra nutty propaganda. We cover it all the time. This is over the top propaganda. It enraged, well, I don't know if that's the right word for James Lucid. He made a song about it. I put a link in the description. But I was listening to it, and I was just like, dirty, disgusting man with a blue shirt like me and a blue hat on, baseball cap on. And your atypical father, he even has his, I won't show it, but he has his kids in the video to help try to sell this lie and deceit and dishonesty. Can you imagine what this creature is actually capable of doing that is evil? He's planning on doing more nuclear videos too, by the way. The real goal is downplaying the damage.
The crudest way that was explained to me, but it stuck with me, is if you imagine your dog makes a mess in the yard. It is, if you walk up to it, you can smell it. It is affecting you, but you can walk away from it. However, if you were to step in it and then you track it in the house, now it is affecting all over the place. You are contaminated and you're spreading contamination.
Makes sense.
Okay, trust me on this. I bought a plastic pile of dog poop to demonstrate this, and then I realized this is an important concept.
This is important propaganda. So they're going to conflate man-made anthropogenic radiation, which is destructive to everything with replicating cells, to dog poop. It's just, now, but like, dogs are important, and we'll explain that coming up. Billions of pieces of Fukushima nuclear fuel, which is not like dog poop, it's still splitting atoms, have spread pretty much everywhere. It's truly frightening. Wherever there's cesium, there's going to be plutonium. Remember 10 million atoms from the French study on Canada, United States, per cubic meter of air. And so the disposition would be up stunning. This has already happened 14 years ago to us. Fukushima was around 6 million pounds per building.
And I want to learn this exactly once and never forget it. So we're going all in. All right, this is my my friend's dog, Duchess.
Poop.
Duchess, come here. Good girl. All right, here we go. Please forgive me for this analogy, but I think this is going to work. I have a very complicated setup here. I have multiple boards, and we're about to learn about contamination versus radiation. Okay, so I have some contamination right here, right? This is contamination. I don't like it. I do not like this at all. Notice how I take this glove off? That's going to...
No, notice how he's talking to children, right? Can you imagine what kind of sick, twisted, and demented stuff he's actually doing on the internet, this creature? Let me tell you about animals and humans. If you take radiation, they infected mice with it. And if you give the mice the flu virus, it'll eventually kill the irradiated animals. So the radiation compromised the immune system, and when they got the flu, they died from it. In normal animals, they didn't die from the flu. Remember that? Do you get it? You understand what's really going on here? You hear the bird flu. That's because the animals are compromised with radiation. The birds are compromised with radiation. It's not the bird flu, it's just any pathogen will finish them off.
Going to be important later. So right now in this room there is a smell radiating from...
A smell radiating. Wow. I've never heard this such severe
Going to be important
propaganda.
later.
Let me try that
So
again.
right now in this room,
Let me snap that off. I want to catch that. Here we go. I want to put that there so I can find that later. That'll come in handy. It's just hard to believe somebody's this sinister.
there is a smell radiating from
He's got radiation on the same chart with poo, and he's going to call poo contamination, and the other stuff is radiation. So radiation can't be contamination in a kid's mind, right? Some sinister stuff. Wait, this is sinister what he's doing.
be important later. So right now in this room, there is a smell radiating from
The dog poo. Toxicity of inhaled plutonium dioxide in beagle dogs. So when they gave radiation to dogs, they got tumors of the deaths from the radiation began 1.5 to 5.4 years after the exposures. So a dog is the size, you can equate children with animals, right? The dogs, because of their size and weight. So tumors of the lungs, the skeleton, and the liver occurred beginning with 3 years after the exposure. Bone tumors in 93 dogs were the most common cause of death. So the children, out of 144, you would expect to see bone tumors kill at least 93 of the children. Lung tumors found in 46 dogs were the second most common cause of death. They had 3 different tumors, bones, liver, and lungs. And liver tumors were found in 20 dogs, but the cause of death in only 2 dogs occurred later than the tumors in the bones and the lung. Tumors in these 3 organs often occurred in the same animal and were competing causes of death. These findings in dogs suggest a similar dose-related biological effects could be expected in humans. So you get 3 tumors, and anybody's guess which one is going to kill you. But typically it was the bone tumor. And bone tumor, of course, no painkillers are going to help you. Now, the biggest byproduct of the radiative fuel rods is not plutonium, it's curium isotopes. Hence the reason we call a reactor core curium. Are the major byproducts in the irradiated nuclear fuel. And forget about alpha, it's the biggest byproduct, and it needs lead shielding 20 times thicker than it does for plutonium. And, right, so remember that statement that these findings in dogs suggest the dead dogs, the 140 dogs, all the dogs died from the man-made radiation, suggest a similar dose-related biological effects could be expected in humans. Humans are a lot bigger, by the way. But it was discovered that the human kidneys are 50 times less efficient than the animals are, kidneys, at removing the plutonium. So you're 50 times more likely to die than the dogs, and all the dogs died of multiple tumors and vicious bone tumors. And that's what this creature's selling us.
this dog poop right now. It's awful. I don't like it. I'm a little sad at my life choices. However, there's a smell coming off. How do I know that? Like, how do I know that there's a smell happening that's unpleasant? And the answer is, I have a nose.
So he's talking to kids. Telling kids radiation is like dog poo. It's not illegal to be a monster, by the way, like this. It's not illegal to lie like he's doing. It's not illegal. He's got 12 million, almost 12 million subscribers because there's nothing too low for him to do. This is the radioactive fallout after 26 days, covers the entire planet. All the government models show you the same thing. So you're breathing it in, you're consuming it, you're eating it, you're drinking it. To conflate it with dog poo that's a sickness. This man is mentally ill.
And that nose is a detector that I'm using to detect that smell that's radiating from the dog poop,
the
right?
smell that's radiating, because the topic is nuclear power plants. So he's so far removed from a nuclear power plant when he talks about poo irradiating a smell. It's just surreal that someone like this could actually exist. It's surreal that somebody could be that evil. So that's sinister. At least to me, anyway. I just can't comprehend. Like, why would someone choose a life pattern where they do stuff like this, come out and go to the extremes to manipulate the most vulnerable of society? What do we call people like that? That's terrorism, isn't it? He's disarming those children before they can grow up and become... it's just, why be so evil, man? Sorry, I meant to turn the volume down for you. Deaths from radiation occurred beginning 1.5 to 5.4 years. Bone tumors in 93 of the 144 dogs were the most common cause of death.
And that nose is a detector that I'm using to detect that smell that's radiating from the dog poop, right?
And the dogs all died in the radiation experiments.
Okay? So, radiation workers, or I guess nuclear workers is the proper term, have a very special thing called a dosimeter. This is a DAD, a digital alarming dosimeter.
So the isotopes are daughters, the dosimeters are dads. Daughters and dads. And radiation kills them all. Man, oh man, oh man. Can you imagine being this evil? Can you imagine what he does for kicks? I'm an idiot, I guess. I care about people, I care about species, I care about life. It's just, why be so evil? Why take that route? Why go down? I don't understand why he has to be so evil. He got 12 million subscribers. He can make videos about anything he wants and people will watch it. He'll make a fortune. Very high concentrations of hot particles in the Pacific Northwest during April. May, including plutonium and americium, which decays to plutonium after 2.5 days. And as I just showed you in the study, plutonium killed all the animals.
This is a DAD, a digital...
A dad. He's allegedly a dad too, and he even put his kids in the video. I'm not going to show it to you, but I'm not a scumbag like him. Is there anything too low for him to do, I wonder? Is there anything too rotten that he wouldn't do? Irreversible heart damage for children, 50 atoms a kilogram. A Becquerel is the pulse of energy. You need a physical atom, anthropogenic man-made atom, to produce that explosion each second. So a single atom will just pulse energy the speed of light in every direction, and cesium will pulse 600 feet every second for 300 years. But americium will pulse it for 250,000, 500,000 years, no problem.
Alpha, beta, gamma, neutron. Well, we're not going to worry about neutron because that's mostly in the core of the reactor. So let's...
No, it's not. The levels of radiation measured in the United States at Fukushima was 500,000 times the normal levels. This was just gammas. Right, his Geiger counter, my Geiger counter up there at the top of the screen. I should fix that. That's a little crooked looking up there. Even worse now, to make it worse or what? You can only measure gamma. I just can't believe that guy actually is real. We've never even seen anything close to that concentration. Went up day after day, 7,000 kilometers away. It still went up. It was 500,000 when they measured it, but it kept going up day after day for months.
Look at our little dog poop analogy. What could we do to prevent the smell? Oh, here's the thing we could do. We could put a little cover over the dog poop so the smell could no longer get to us.
Can you believe somebody's actually saying that stuff? I've seen a lot of kooky wackos, man. But this guy just... Bone tumors in 93 dogs were the most common cause of death in the dogs.
And since we know that lead stops gamma, we could do what we talked about earlier, right? We've got that lead blanket from the dentist office. You remember that?
The lead aprons offer little protection. Not only that, the machines will automatically adjust the dose of radiation to be absurd doses to get through the lead. And whoever's getting that x-ray with that shield on them is going to probably die eventually from that dose of radiation.
What's the other thing we do? All right, let's go back and look at our turd analogy here. So if I had to do some work around this dog poop and I got close, like the closer I get, the more uncomfortable I feel. And you can see it with the nose even. Like if I come in close, oh man, it smells so bad, I gotta get away.
So you're talking to kids, eh? This is terrorism. What else could you possibly call this stuff that he's doing there? My goodness. It's just holy smokeroos. So it used to be 1 in a million children with thyroid tumors. And thyroid tumors means not only got cancer, but they're producing radioactive hormones for the rest of their lives, including their entire developing life. Imagine how bad this is for the species. You can't just have it in humans. Now it's 358,000 of a million in 2012, the first year. It went from 1 in a million to 358,000 of a million in the first year because their nuclear power plant broke down. 35.8% of Fukushima children have thyroid tumors that are 2 centimeters. The thyroid gland of a child is about 2 by 3 centimeters. So they have a thyroid tumor the size of their thyroids, and the thyroid produces the hormones. So they're producing radioactive brutal radioactive hormones for the rest of their lives. And if you got that kind of dose of gamma, which is, we're talking about gammas, then you're going to have 100 times more bone seekers like strontium or plutonium or stuff like that. And so you're going to be producing radioactive stem cells because it's in their bones. And you know all the dogs died from the bone tumors. Not all of them, but 93 out of 144. It used to be 1 in a million children with thyroid tumors. Now it's 358,000 out of a million, 35.8%.
If I had to work around that dog poop right there, man, it smells bad in this room.
You can't smell radiation. You can't see it or hear it or feel it or touch it or pick it up or perceive it. If their plant breaks down, they said they figured you should evacuate the country. I believe the country, this is a nuclear plant worker, the same as he's quoting a nuclear plant worker. Says, I believe the country will be evacuated if their fuel pool collapses. Should be hundreds of thousands of people working furiously every day. Right, and the example, the people he's getting his information from, this guy gets his information from, is 2 nuclear plant workers, right? So if your nuclear plant breaks down, you might have to evacuate your country, kids.
I would want to get out of the room as quickly as possible. So that's another thing we can do. We can just go over, do our work, and get out of there really fast.
Get out of there. So the community, you can see the name A's and B's and D's and F's, right? The next line is the population left in those countries or those communities. And these numbers are just gamma cesium-137 only, not the other 1,000 isotopes that you have to worry about also, but just one isotope of cesium-137. So these communities, they left them there to get sick and die. And there's a lot of these communities, as you can see, that they just left them there to die. So he's telling you the nuclear plant workers are really responsible. They have all this criteria, but they've never told the victims to get out of there, did they?
So that's fun. I'm going to do it again. Get in there, get out, okay? That's called time. So shield.
So those people in the nuclear wasteland can't get out. The government refuses them, the nuclear industry abandoning them. This is sinister stuff, folks. And because it's 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison.
So we no longer just have to think about the radiation. We now have contamination because that water was in that pipe where those radioactive particles were, and now it's dripped on the floor. So if we have to do any work in there, this could happen. We could walk over here, we could do our work, but on our way out, there's a very high likelihood that we might actually track that stuff out. And because it was from that pipe with the particles in it, we could spread that contamination. This is a big deal, and we have to think about what to do here. We need to call somebody. So that's what happens in a nuclear plant. If there's a spill or anything like that, biggest of deals. You have to deal with it, and you have to deal with it in a very intelligent way. So you call these special people. They come out with special meters, and they check everything, and they have special equipment sometimes that they'll come and they'll clean everything up, and they'll make sure that everything's safe.
If that room gets contaminated with radiation, you can't clean it up. You have to disassemble the whole area and take everything to a nuclear repository for 1 million years. Telling anybody who wears a paper suit in a nuclear wasteland is not an educated person. See this row here? That's people left there to get sick and die in all those communities.
So if there's a spill and it changes the area, they document all that in the RCA documentation, and you know where to go and what to do when you're there. So these are the main concepts that I learned in that training, and it was really good training, actually. There's a lot of numbers that went along with it. We got to learn how the core of the reactor worked, which I really enjoyed.
Which I really enjoyed. You should go down and tell everybody how lucky they are to be in a nuclear wasteland. 14 prefectures, the food banned by 55 countries. They kept the people there because they don't matter. You got to protect the nuclear industry. That's why he's got such a 12 million subscribers, because he's willing to come out and sacrifice your loved ones and the puppies and everything else so he can feel good and look good to his kids, right?
But the last thing is you have to take an exam. Now, I'm an engineer. I felt pretty confident about my ability to hang with all this stuff.
He's an engineer, so he knows different. He's an engineer, so he knows what he's doing is evil. Because he's pretty smart. He knows what he's doing is evil, folks. He's a sinister... If he wasn't doing this, he'd probably be in jail for familicide or something. Officials sharply rate the radiation levels for the victims to get iodine pills after the meltdowns, 75 times higher than the World Health Organization recommended for the most vulnerable of society, the Wall Street Journal. And the reason that they get away with it is because people like him exist and are there to protect the most evil entity in human history, the nuclear industry. And he's planning on making more videos.
Smart. I know that about you. You know that about you. And you can tell when somebody's telling you the truth. I have been loyal to KiwiCo for...
He said, you're smart. I know that about you. He does. The people that are watching that don't know him. He's appealing to kids. And KiwiCo is a company that targets kids too with these... science experiments, and he's promoting that, and he uses his own kids He's so far from a conscience. It's just surreal that something like that is actually real. It's surreal. Nuclear fallout will engulf Taiwan. People should stay home or immediately take off their clothing. Radioactive rain caused 130 schools in Korea to close. He's not worried about kids, is he? He's worried about his little gym smarter.
Came back the next day to a warehouse on site that housed more hands-on training, and we met Tim Lawson. Tim is what's called an RP instructor, radiation protection.
He's got a high school education, the guy he's talking to. He's not an expert. He took a course from the nuclear industry to teach a class, and the class is about employees and people following safety rules. They're nuclear plant workers, typically just a high school education. He's an actual engineer. He knows what he's doing is sinister. It's unbelievable that anybody would choose to be this evil. It's unbelievable that somebody, it's just unbelievable somebody does stuff like that. Fukushima radiation release was so great that the radioactive aerosols, radioactive fallout in Washington, were up over 100,000 times. It climbed up to 1 million atoms of Xenon-133 on the ground, and it's going to have hundreds and hundreds of long-lived isotopes with it in the same samples. Fukushima gives radiation meters, the dads, to the pregnant women and children in a nuclear wasteland. How evil are you when you do something like that? There's so many of them out there, we can't keep up with it. Deaths are up 48% since radiation levels spiked in the tap water for babies. That's what Smarter Every Day is promoting. Smarter Every Day is all about smarter every day, less about humanity and everybody else. The slower you spread radiation doses, more effectively it produces cancers, heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline. Hot radioactive particles in Seattle at 50% of the levels in the nuclear wasteland of Japan latches on to the lung tissues.
I learned that RP professionals in nuclear plants are very important. They're like the watchdogs or the scouts that are constantly looking around the plant to keep the workforce safe from radiation.
Like, what is he talking about? Their job is to make you complacent. New York Times contributor confirms California rainwater 181 times above drinking water standards for radioactive iodine-131. Iodine-131 in Pennsylvania at 3,300% above the federal drinking water standards. They use iodine because it has a short half-life. It's easy to find, but you can't have iodine without cesium, uranium, plutonium, americium, neptunium, curium isotopes in absurd quantities. If you've got a large quantity of iodine-131, you got 10 times more 132, 30 times more 133, 31 times more iodine-129. And there's the same mathematical equation for other isotopes too, right? And that's downplaying it, believe it or not, by using 3,300%, because you can't just have iodine as a gamma. You can't just have gamma. And you can see, right, this is the reports you were getting, because the person will look up iodine and say 8-day half-life. Most of people will think it's gone in 8 days. There's actually 10 half-lives. So a couple of months later, they're like, well, that's all gone. For every iodine-131, there's 100 times, or cesium-137, by the way, which was almost 10 million atoms compared to pre-Fukushima levels per cubic meter of air. You're going to have 100 times more strontium-90.
We have an RWP, and this will be the RWP we'll be using today going through out here. So it is all units, reactor building, general area activities. This RWP has medium radiological risk. And the RWP set points
These are
are
millirims.
80 millirem for the dose alarm and 80 millirem per hour for the dose
So
rate
they're not
alarm.
measuring physical atoms that you're going to breathe in. Why would you want to be at that site? Tends to concentrate in the testicles 360 physical atoms, not millirims, not millisieverts, not microsieverts, physical atoms of radioactive sulfur per day inhaled by the Californians. And for the males, it concentrates in the testicles. For all the species, which means you don't produce babies after for the species.
This unit that the RWP says, millirem, I have no frame of reference for what that means at this point. And a little bit later, Tim explained like the scale of millirem. I'll just let you listen to that now.
You see negligible effects before 50,000 millirem, 50,000 millirem. The stations, the NRC's
Like 5
limit
microsieverts.
is 5,000
Millisieverts,
millirem, but then the station lowers that to the maximum of 2,000 millirem. So your threshold for
No one uses
for any
millirims.
biological effects is 50,000 millirem. And
These are just unbelievable scumbags to use that terminology on top of that. Radioactive xenon at 450,000 times detection levels after Fukushima, which has a short half-life and persisted for weeks. So there was a continuous plume covering the entire planet forever, post-Fukushima. This stuff is forever. It never goes away. Because it's not just Xenon-133, right? If you have xenon, you're going to be loaded with all the other isotopes. I'll just give you a depiction to put in your mind here, maybe. Hang on. I don't understand why the people in the industry hates humanity and the species so much. I never will get that, I guess. This was the Xenon-133 follow, by the way. This is 468 hours, 19.5 days, the whole planet's cover. It's a continuous plume that covers the whole planet at one time. It's like an invisible snowstorm starts in Japan up in the corner. And after 19.5 days, it never stops snowing, the snow never melts, it never goes away, right? So get rid of the word snow and put in radiation. And now because you can't see it, you can't smell it or hear it or feel it or taste it. And that's what these people are counting on.
we are so far below that.
Have you ever seen a fundraiser where the town will like put a big thermometer out in town square, and as people donate, it'll fill up the thermometer? Well, this is how I think about the dosage limits you're allowed working at a nuclear plant.
Notice how he pulls his arms right in close to his body. Nuclear radiation is the most carcinogenic thing that exists. A single atom will eventually turn into a tumor. So when he's telling you he thinks of it as a thermometer.
So Tim just said that 50,000 millirem is what's required in order for biological effects to happen to your body, right?
That's not true. Inhaling just one particle can cause a cancer. He's asking a plant worker instead of experts.
Right, now, in this case, that's way in the sky. That's off the board, okay?
Sinister.
I'm looking at
unbelievable,
2,000 millirem, which is what's allowable at Browns Ferry Nuclear Power Plant.
It's unbelievable. There's so many people like this out there, but he's got 12 million subscribers. He's special. Oh, yeah. He's special. I don't know what to make of people sometimes, but I'd like the nuclear industry, but holy shit. It's crazy, right? Every video he does gets close to 1 million views. I guess not everyone, but
Right now, in this case, that's way in the sky.
International Atomic Energy Agency today admitted there's no such thing as a safe level. Smarter
Right
every
now,
day.
in this case,
And allowable standards are based on natural, not man-made. So what's the point of the International Atomic Energy Agency if you don't have a standard? Because if your standard is based on natural stuff and nuclear only produces man-made stuff, this whole industry is just evil and rotten, isn't it? Is it? It's just like, it's 80 years of 80 years of just being sinister.
and this is how I think it works.
So this is a conjecture. This is his opinion. 5,000 nuke plant workers had severe internal radiation doses, even though they had paper suits, which can't protect you, of course. Even from 1,000 feet away, it can't protect you. In the first couple of months, May 22nd, 2011. I'm sorry, so this happened on March 11th, April 11th, May the 22nd, so 2 months and a week. So 9 weeks later, 5,000 nuclear plant workers, homeless and destitute and victims of society, the immigrants who don't speak the language, are suffering internal radiation exposures. But everything is good as long as it's smarter every day. Gets his...
So, first of all, as a human on Earth, you are going to be
He shouldn't be allowed to use the word human, should he?
exposed to radiation just as a function of being on Earth.
You can't
that's
conflate
cosmic
natural
rays and stuff like that hitting you. You're going to get radiation just in the background of your everyday life.
Yeah, but we're already acclimated to that through genetic superior selection. Same as every other species on the planet. It's completely benign and innocuous and harmless. It has no adverse side effects. It's stardust. It's something we're already acclimated to through genetic superior selection. He's a vomit material, this guy. He produces vomit material. Disinformation by nuclear proponents try to confuse the public about the effects of external and internal radiation. That's whatever this creature. I'm pretty sure that if you checked his DNA, there's a lot of chromosomes.
But because you are a nuclear worker that works at a nuclear plant, and today you're going to get a radiological work permit, an RWP, and you're going to read it and you're going to say, oh, well, today I can get 80 millirem, and my dose rate alarm is 80 millirem. So what that means is I can go into the plant and I can do my work, and that's my limit. So let's say...
It doesn't work that way, folks. I just don't understand why it's an option to he's got 12 million, almost 12 million subscribers. He doesn't need to be evil. Right? He doesn't. Should YouTubers who lie and downplay radiation poisoning, because that's what we're talking about, to protect the nuclear industry, which is exactly what he's doing, be labeled as terrorists? What else would you... Somebody said no, but I mean, what else would you label them as? I guess there's some stronger words, I suppose. I got 18 people on my show. Bless your hearts, by the way. He's got over 200,000 views, I bet you, at this stage. Well, when we started the show, it was 10 hours in. He got 188,000 views. Let's check it right now out of curiosity. By the time my show's over, he'll have more views on this video than I got on my site in the last 3.5 years. I get no views on my site whatsoever. And that's because I'm a good person, I'm honest. Yeah, well, you got 212,000 now. So that's 26,000 views. I got, in that same amount of time, I got 50. Some of them might have been him because I got the same name. One of his watchers, because I'm on the same How to Think About Radiation. I got the same title. I'm a reply to his video. I got 20 likes. I'm afraid to look at what he got. Let's have a look at what he got.
Video of the moment.
He's got 13,000 likes. I got 20. The difference is I'm not a degenerate monster, scumbag, and human-hating, child-hating creature. It's surreal that people like that is allowed to exist, but that seems to be the only people that are allowed to exist are people exactly like the creature from hell. Columbia medical professor inhaling just one hot particle can cause a cancer. So what happens then when the whole planet is buried after 20 days? It's the Norwegian Institute of Air Research, I believe, that particular study.
I went and I did my work and I got like 35 millirem, okay? Well, I would just add that to my little thermometer. And tomorrow you do it and you got maybe 40. And so you do this over and over and over, and it's cumulative. The amount of radiation you're exposed to over the course of a year adds up. But let's say tomorrow you are required to go work in a different part of the plant that has a hot spot. There's more radiation there, and you might get more radiation than typical. Well, that's okay. As long as the RWP allows it, you're allowed to get that dosage of radiation.
This is just sinister. There's no other way to describe this. And he started off with natural stuff that's completely has nothing to do with man-made radiation whatsoever. Every dose of radiation increases. Now, it's not just cancer. There's heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, schizophrenia. Children with 11 atoms a kilogram start to see heart problems. They picked up 30 million one-ton bags of radioactive fallout in Japan. 30 million. I like to see this guy go down there and write on every one of those 30 million one-ton bags, Dana is wrong. He is right.
So this goes up, 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 and they keep up with how much radiation each individual worker receives over the course of their job.
First off, you started off with natural stuff. You can't do that. And that's 40 lies he's told. There's still 15 minutes left in his video. It's just why are I asked this question for so many years I can't keep up with it. But when I see people like this that takes it to a different level, what he's doing, he's just hating on humanity. He's just out to get humanity, this guy. He don't care about anything whatsoever. He doesn't even care about his own kids. He put him in a video, for goodness sakes. It's unconscionable somebody would actually do that in a propaganda video of this magnitude and importance and prominence. This is just 2 of the 4 reactors that melted down. Reactor 3 to your left and reactor 4 behind me. These were 190-foot, 65-meter, 19-story buildings. These are decades of reactor cores were stored at the top of these 19-story, 65-meter, 190-foot tall buildings that don't exist anymore. You're talking about at least 16 to 18 reactor cores lost in just these 2 buildings, and each of them were at least 100 Chernobyls. Chernobyl was a graphite reactor. It was a brand new reactor.
Now, there's two ways that nuclear workers can measure this.
These are
The first
massive
way is
reactors.
called a DAD, a digital alarming dosimeter.
A dad. So the isotopes are called daughters. The equipment is called a dad. The dad and the daughters. The fuel is put into a pool. A pool is typically somewhere you go to enjoy your day. He's sinister, so he fits right in with this industry, which is predominantly sinister, right? That's what I mean. If you're sinister, man, the nuclear industry will make you a lot of money.
Now, a DAD is pretty interesting.
A dad doesn't put his children in videos like this, I can tell you that much. Why does he hate his kids so much is the real question. They puke in his car one day and he had a road rage and beat up some old lady, I wonder. Why, oh why, oh why, would somebody with 12 million subscribers take a gig like that? I guess it's easy to be evil, see? It's hard to be a good person. It's hard to take the moral high ground. It's hard to always... It's not hard. I shouldn't say that because it's not hard for me. I don't have no problem. I just can't comprehend it. It's disappointing.
Now, there's two ways that nuclear workers can measure this. The first way is called a DAD, a digital alarming dosimeter. Now, a DAD is pretty interesting. It works kind of like an old school pager that measures. It works kind of like an old school pager that measures radiation.
Old school pager. He's talking to kids, but a kid wouldn't understand what a pager is. They've been extinct like most of the whales have.
Now, I'm assuming it measures gamma. I don't really know, but it's pretty.
No, that is what it measures, and it doesn't do a very good job at that. And the dosimeter that they're using is significantly pointless.
Pretty interesting how it works because it's doing two things. It's measuring a rate, meaning on my RWP it says I can get 80 millirem per hour. So basically, the rate at which the thermometer is going up, that's what this measures. There's another thing you can use, and that's called the dosimeter of legal record. Now, this one works a little differently. A dosimeter of legal record looks like this. It's like a little thing that you wear, kind of like a name tag looking thing. And this thing measures the cumulative effects of being exposed to radiation. So a DLR, basically how that works is you wear it for 3 months.
If you breathe a physical atom into your body, you drink it, it's in your food, which is typically the exposure route, post-Fukushima in particular. It's in your body, it's pulsing energy every second. Your body is trying to repair the damage every second to your chromosomes, your DNA, and your cells, and everything else, your organs, because it'll cause permanent lesions at 50 atoms a kilogram, which is... You're not going to measure with these, with my gadget or with his. My gadget is way better than his gadget. It doesn't matter if you got a cheap one because you can still extrapolate. See? Typically, what you do is you multiply by 600 to get the real numbers of gammas, alphas, neutrons, betas, and X-rays.
And then after that, or some unit of time, you send it in to get measured. And they can look at it and they can say, oh, you got this much radiation in...
Okay, that's kind of important, actually. Just bear with me. Dosimeter. You send it in and somebody else will figure it out months later. Which is what they done to the women and children. It was 80,000 of them. They gave them dosimeters that will be sent to the universities in different countries who will never know the kids or anything else. The nuclear students, right? So they get used to, they could be desensitized to caring about victims.
That time period. I'm assuming it's like some film in there, and they'll measure how much the film was exposed, something like that. Not sure how it works. But these are the two tools that you can use to figure out how much radiation each worker is exposed to. So a DAD, a digital alarming dosimeter, that gives you the rate,
Wow.
and you can use math to figure out what the total dosage that you've received is, and a DLR, a dosimeter of legal record, that gets you just the totals over a certain period of time. All this is meant to give you an ALARA compliance, the as low as reasonably achievable goal. So these are not amounts of radiation you receive on that RWP. This is the upper limit. You don't want to go over these numbers. And a really good radiation worker, somebody that works in a nuclear plant that's really good at their job, they will keep this number as low as possible, which I think is really interesting. Now, I understand all this, but what I don't have a feel for is, what do these numbers mean? Like 2,000 millirem, like how does that compare to other things? So I asked him, like, how...
I haven't got this far in the video, by the way. Because I only found out about them about 3 hours before the show went live. And what I was going to do for my show tonight, I'm going to set it off for next show. And I decided to come after this guy. And then James, I knew James was going to post a song about them. And I thought it'd be really cool, him posting a song about them. And we'll play that song at the end for you. It's linked up in the description, or in the comments section. And I'll come out and audit him for lies. How many lies? So we're at something like 46 lies he's told so far, which is not a record. Like I've done the same thing recently. If you go back to my videos, to Harvard University, to Yale University, to I think it was Stanford University. Let me just go check all of that. For the was that for the anniversary or? Was that for the anniversary? We only cover facts. We don't cover well, we flush out propaganda, but I don't know if it was that far back, was it? Oh, we produce a lot of materials. The truth gets no views per se. My views are censored, right? I'm well known worldwide. To suggest I'm only getting a couple hundred views per video, but the quality of material that we produce is absurd, isn't it? There it is. Audit of Harvard University, audit of MIT, and audit of Stanford University. Harvard University told the most lies. It took me 4 hours and 40 minutes to get through that one. MIT took 3 hours. And Stanford, we've done the same thing as we're doing here, where we just challenged the lies. Speaking of challenge the lies, let's get back after it. Boom.
How does this compare to other professions like radiation techs or people that are working in the medical field that are doing x-rays all day? How does this nuclear program for ALARA, how does that measure against other fields? And his response was pretty funny.
The medical field, that scares the hell out of me. What those people do with their isotopes is, man, they need the NRC on them. But they're not regulated by the NRC, we are. So both of my sons work here. I feel like it is one of the, which is near and dear to me. I feel like it is absolutely safe enough to where my children can be here and have a very good career. And it's a good place to be. You're absolutely protected.
After we finished our classwork, it was time to head next door for hands-on training. So the RP people in a nuclear plant, you're kind of like the mother may I. Like if I need to do something, I need to check to make sure that the area is safe. You guys have the equipment, you know how to clear an area. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So what we'll do is we have a frequency of surveying every zone. So kind of like the Marines. We go first every time. If it needs lighting in an area that's dark.
Oh, now he's equating himself with Marines, with soldiers. Inhaling the particles increases the exposure by a factor of 1 trillion for each atom or particle. And after Fukushima, in a Canadian study, was 20 million particles of iodine-131 per liter. 6 times more 132, 30 times more 133, 31 times more iodine-129 with a 15 million year half-life. The iodine-132, the iodine-133 are 9 times more effective at ionizing and radiating the thyroid glands. The incredibly effective iodine-131 is. And these are just gammas. You can't have just gammas. You're going to have alphas and neutrons and betas and everything else.
You go in with the headlamp on and your meter, which tells you the radiation because you can't see it, smell it.
Smell it, hear it, feel it, taste it, touch it, pick it up, throw rocks at it,
Or taste it. So we go in with our meters, we go in the dark, we monitor for.
Listen, he wouldn't take that job if he actually understood. He wouldn't put his kid on that site if he actually had an education in nuclear. Unless he was like the serial killer right there.
Conditions. When we have those conditions, we come out and we tell the person who's going to go in and hang the lights, hey, here's where the radiation's at, here's where the hazards are at, and here's where.
Like the whole site, the sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs are created in enormous temperatures out of nuclear meltdown in Japan, for instance, or the nuclear bomb testing in the oceans. Creates these spherical balls, and that's some of the configurations. They ingest uranium, plutonium, americiums, neptuniums, strontiums, everything else. Become super hot particles. They're not easily dilutable in water, or diluted, but rather they're liberated from the ocean very easily when the waves are crashing on the shoreline, and then they go into the community, the forest, the meadows, and everything, and poison the species and humanity.
Conditions. When we have those conditions, we come out and we tell the person who's going to go in and hang the lights, hey, here's where the radiation's at, here's where the hazards are at, and here's where you are allowed to go, and here's where you need to avoid because these are dangers which are going to exceed your radiation work permit. You know, it exceeds the limits which we allow.
And so what you're about to do is you're about to test me on my ability to follow procedures, and I'm either going to pass or I'm going to fail, right?
That is correct.
Before we went into the mock-up of the radiologically controlled area, I had to learn how to get checked in with a software system that tracks workers and their RWPs and the dosages as they enter and exit the RCA. I got my 2 mock-up dosimeters and reviewed our RWP.
Click yes, you've acknowledged that you have read and understand. And when you do this,
Dose alarm 40 millirem, and so that's how much I can be exposed.
no, that's how much you can receive.
That's how much I can receive, thank you. And the maximum rate that this is going to alarm at is 80 millirem an hour.
Right, so if you walk into 80 millirem an hour, it's going to alarm while you're standing in the 80 millirem an hour. And as it accrues, 10 millirem, 15 millirem, 20 millirem, if it gets to 40, it's going to alarm, and it's not going to stop alarming, and you're going to have to exit and see RP.
Got it.
And to prevent that, we look at our dosimeter every 10 to 15 minutes while we're inside of a radiation area. And then that's going to activate the dosimeter, and it gives you your allowable set point. So right now, the station allows you 2 rem, like we discussed, but it's only going to give you 40 millirem for this single entry. Even though you have nearly 2 rem, you can still only pick up 40 millirem for this single entry.
Tim then showed me how.
Don't get that ink. Don't get that. I remember when I printed up that stuff. Don't handle that stuff. Fold it over behind if you're planning on keeping it for tax records or something like that. But don't get that ink, that fresh ink that is printing, on your fingers. It gets absorbed in your skin. It's nasty. Keep it away from your children and your pets, and keep it away from the environment. That's nasty. It's just like these people. It's nasty. 3 million children required treatment because of Chernobyl. Many will die prematurely. That's UN Secretary General Kofi Annan in 2000, 3 million that they know about. But if you look up on Wikipedia, it'll say only 34 people or something died, right? They actually closed 9,400 farms in Ireland, Scotland, United Kingdom because of Chernobyl, 3,000 kilometers away.
The turnstiles work off of your dosimeter. And then I got dressed out according to the specifications laid out in the RWP with boots and gloves and a head covering. Tim talked me through the security door and the airlock procedures, and we headed into the mock-up area. And I was a little bit worried that I would forget stuff from the RWP, but Tim reminded me that I have a little white trip ticket that the computer gave me when I logged in that had all the stuff listed out for me.
Your trip ticket tells you how much dose you can accumulate and how much dose you can walk into. So you have that on your trip ticket. So the only thing you have to really have in your head is what the conditions are inside of this contaminated area. And as we discussed on the briefing, here's a survey map here. So we see that just inside this step-off pad is 2 millirem an hour here, and I don't reach across the boundary, it's 2 millirem an hour right there. It's 5 millirem right over here. It's 8 to 10 over by the high radiation area on one side, and it's 8 to 10 down that side of the high radiation area. Noticing the boundary is continuous. And it's a continuous boundary so that no one accidentally walks into an area while they're just looking up at something else. Because a lot of people walk in a plant inspecting, so they have other things on their mind other than where the boundary's at. So that's a continuous boundary. So you're going in to check the following unit IDs. So I've got a list of IDs that you're going to look at. I would look at my dosimeter and make sure it was turned on before I went into the area.
Okay.
Still on, because we do have digital issues like the world does.
Okay, the dosimeter is on. When I first walked into the mock-up, I was being tested, right? So I wasn't thinking about making a video, but after the fact, I realized this is interesting, and I asked if I could take my camera back in there, and I filmed things from my perspective so you could see it. So I edited this together so you could get an idea of what I was looking at.
I was going to say, I'm assuming he does his own editing because it's so bad. His editing is just terrible. Hundreds of thousands, it was actually millions of insect-eating birds, extremely emaciated on their migratory route, no fat reserves, no muscle mass, and they just dropped dead, severely emaciated. It was 192 species. I actually got a little sparrow out in my shed from 2 days ago. He got hit by a car, and he was on the road. There was car. I seen this like little spot on the road up ahead, and I seen one car, then the next car, and it was my turn, and I realized it was a little sparrow, and he had his claws dug into the pavement. And I said, oh, shit. And, of course, I went right over his head at about 60 kilometers an hour. I looked in my mirror. He was still there. So there was a driveway. I turned around. By the time I turned around, there was 4 more cars came down. I was like, oh, shit. He's dead by now. When I got back up there, I pulled over, put my emergency lights on. And there was more traffic, 2 more cars coming. He was right alongside of me. And I had my emergency lights on. And there was a car behind me. I couldn't open my door. I felt I should have blocked the road, but that was too dangerous, clearly, at that stage. And I watched 2 more cars go over, and he had his claws hooked into the pavement. And the car went over. You can see him just rocking. So anyway, within seconds, I had the car behind me pass me. I opened the door up. And then 2 more cars went over him this was all happening at one time. Went straight across the road and no problem picked him up. He had a broken wing. And there was more cars behind me now. I had to wait, but there's no more cars on that side of the road. So I took him down to drop him off at the vet. The vet's was closed. And so he's out of my shed in a box. I got a bucket of ice in there. I change it twice a day to keep it cool in there, right? And just keep it dark, let him recover a bit. Give him a bit of drops of water. I got water and food and stuff like that. But he came around maybe an hour later, and he can't fly anyway. But I'm going to probably bring him down to the vet tomorrow, I guess. He's a bit stronger, I noticed here tonight, just before I went out and checked on him before we done the show. He's definitely much stronger, but he's not active or nothing, right? So he's probably severely... He would be dead if I left him there, so... Worst case, I've extended his life for a couple of days. Best case, he might get a lot more time out of it. So the vet tomorrow, the vet says he's got a broken wing, but he's going to be okay. Man, because he had a death grip on that road, and if a car couldn't knock him off his perch, there's a good chance he's going to recover. That was pretty darn strong to pull that off. I was sat there just a few feet away watching him hanging onto that road with his claws. 2 cars went over his head. You can see his whole body go like this. And I thought for sure that that was the end of him both times. It wasn't. And look, that's when I was actually right there, right? And so if they says... if they're saying that he's recoverable, but he got a broken wing, he might never fly again, I'll keep him, I guess. I just couldn't leave him there. It was just too pitiful, eh? And because it's so rare now to see any... That's a seed eater, as far as I can tell. But we had 192 species of insect eaters showing up post-Fukushima, 2020. On the migratory route, extremely emaciated, and they had no muscle mass or fat reserve whatsoever. Dropping dead everywhere, right?
While Tim was showing me things, so you'll get the idea. But I apologize for not filming this the best.
All right.
So you'll notice there's not a barrier here, as we discussed, like the high radiation area, which is a yield sign, which is a caution. So there's no barrier here, and the only way in or out is across the step-off pad.
Okay, this gets interesting pretty fast. So this is the map of the area that I'm going to be operating in, right? You can see we have a large contaminated area, or the radiation area, and up here in the corner we have a high radiation area. So what I'm supposed to do is as I enter right here is I go to the low dosage waiting area immediately. I misread this map, like right off the get-go, and I immediately walked all the way across, and I thought this was the low dosage waiting area right over here by this pipe, and I just hung out there, which was the wrong thing to do. So, yeah, that's how I started. I started off wrong.
So you're looking for, label number 1 is unit ID 2-PMP, which is for pump, 2-PMP-075-0020 CS drain pump alpha.
So I'm just using my eyes. Right. I'm seeing a pump over there. I'm not going there yet. I'm just trying to map out where I'm going because I want to be there for a minimum amount of time.
Yes.
So I'm going to go over.
And you're just going to verify the ID.
Nope, that's the Radwater pump.
Hey, that wrench is not supposed to be on. Can you grab that wrench?
I will not grab that wrench.
That is very good. That's exactly. Now, why wouldn't you?
Because that's the high radiation area, and my RP won't let me.
Hey, would you straighten that hose if you don't mind?
That hose in the back there?
Yes.
Okay. I'm thinking, I can't really get there without a stick or something.
Right. Yeah. So you don't want to you don't want to cross the FME barrier.
Yeah.
And a stick in the FME barrier, as we discussed, is foreign material exclusion.
Can't use a stick.
Well, you want to you want to log and document everything that goes into
every tool that passes the barrier.
Correct.
Okay.
Tim continued to ask me to do different things and look at stuff in the environment, and these were basically ways to...
Right, the stick becomes irradiated because you put it into the environment. This is what happened in Japan. There's 4 nuclear reactors, and at the top of the buildings were 8 reactor cores. So 36 reactor cores altogether melted down, and the radioactive fallout covered and blew up. So 4 reactors and 32 reactor cores in the 8 fuel pools all blew up, melted down. The radioactive fallout covered the entire planet. And we got these people coming out, indoctrinating the population with 12 million subscribers into it should be criminal to do what they're doing. Because what they're doing is just going to cause incredible death and harm and disease.
To distract me. And so he would try to ask me to do something that would break radiation protocol, and he would see if I would catch it. And so it was fun. When George and another TVA employee went through this exercise, I got to watch, and you'll notice that they're waiting in the correct low dosage waiting area. So there's that. This training helped us piece together a lot of the information in our heads into a simple set of behavior rules that would minimize our radiation exposure.
So shielding. So that shielding,
That's temporary shielding.
that is temporary shielding, and that is lead. So what if we had to do maintenance on that valve? Could you remove that lead shielding? If
I'm assuming if I got permission in my RWP, but it's not in my RWP.
It's not. So to remove lead shielding, RP would have to be present, standing there, because as you remove that shielding, the dose rates are going to increase.
Okay, so you would have to monitor as I remove the shielding.
Correct. RP would have to be here, and would have to be as you remove it would be there. That's correct.
Yes, sir.
So
Tim had me follow the procedures for taking off my protective gear, which had to be done in a very specific way in order to minimize possible contamination.
Okay.
yep. Now I'll note this: when you peeled it off, it came like out past the line here.
Don't do that.
If it had something on the bottom of it, it would sling it onto the clean area.
Wow.
And like I said, this is the most likely area to get a clean area contamination because of the migration of, like the dirt that will be on your shoe when
Yeah.
when it's sprung, it'll spring out onto
So
the
I
clean
just
area.
rubber band shot potential.
The radiation covers the whole planet from the fallout, and the fuel pools at his site makes the same plume. So what he's telling everybody is, and what he's probably believing himself, is 100% false. This is why there was 7,000, not just all the grey whales are emaciated on their migratory run last year and this year, and dying on numbers that we've never even conceived. The humpback whales have an unusual mortality event because the food chain was broken by radioactive fallout. And there was an extra 7,000 humpback whales have disappeared, starvation, on top of the unusual mortality event for humpback whales.
Hazard that way.
So what I like to do is, and it's just a technique, is as I undress, I face inward, and I pull everything off inward.
Oh.
And then, like a doctor would back up to a door.
I finished taking off my protective gear and exited the radiation area, and then he had me
Like conflating himself with a doctor at that time. Wow. Totally scripted, eh? It's unbelievable, though, that people can be that sinister and actually think they're good people in their own little world. They probably think, well, they know they're lawyers, but they won't admit that it's wrong. They refuse to acknowledge what they're doing, which evidence clearly defines as sinister. They refuse to acknowledge it. They live in denial. And that's why they're the perfect employee. That's why they got those particular jobs, because they're missing, they're incapable of being rational. And why would you use millirems of all things? My goodness. Unit 1 and 2 exhaust stacks, not the reactor buildings, but quite a ways away from the reactor buildings, the actual exhaust stacks for the fuel pools were at 10 sieverts per hour on the base. In fact, some of the numbers were 25 sieverts. 3 to 4 sieverts is a lethal dose, not millirims, microrims, but the terminology they're supposed to be using is sieverts. The only reason they would use millirims is to be deceptive, deceitful, and dishonest.
I scanned myself for
disingenuous.
possible contamination, which again was supposed to be done in a very specific way, which I remember from the written test, but struggled to do it in terms of a practical application. He then took me over and showed me how I would exit the RCA, which entailed having a full body scan done, and then of course I checked back out with my dosimeters with the software system. Obviously I'd messed up the low dosage waiting area, but it was time for Tim to give me his final feedback.
I did have to coach you on the speed at which you were frisking.
Yes.
So that was one thing. So I got you on the second attempt though. Once I told you knew the speed. So but you didn't check your dosimeter while you were inside of the area.
Oh,
so you didn't look at it.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
Well, it's the first indicator that dose rates are not what you expect them to be. You did a perfect job on dress out. You used all the tools that were available to you. So, I mean, your dose is your bank account for your life, and you kept it a Laura.
So
these people are unbelievable, eh? This is the radioactive fallout of the Pacific Ocean by 2013 from Japan. The entire ocean significantly, severely now contaminated forever, which is why almost all the whales are emaciated, all the birds are emaciated.
So I was so distracted by the task.
Sure.
I didn't think about the radiation. I mean, I was thinking about it because of the map. I was seeing the map in my head, but I wasn't thinking about what I was actually receiving at the moment.
And that's a great point for why radiation protection concentrates solely on radiation protection. Just like security, when they're walking around the plant, they're looking for guilty people. They're looking for holes in the system.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about radiation. Maintenance guys, they're looking for leaks and steam, and they're wondering why is that line hot when it shouldn't be hot. That's their focus. Our focus is strictly radiation.
Well, yeah, well, that was a great real-world scenario. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for teaching me.
Absolutely.
So
Hey, good job.
Yeah.
And now, when I submit this paperwork, you will be fully qualified, okay?
Okay, we are now certified. We have moved from knowledge about nuclear plants to understanding. So we're about to go into the plant, and Bill's going to say a lot of things as he takes us in, but you now know what these terms mean. So listen to what he says and see if you know what's going on.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go in the RCA. You're going to put your dad on here. Philip will go in last. Just make sure you're all good.
Put
you get
your
the green
dad.
light, and we'll go in. Okay. Now you got your hard hat,
Yes,
safety
sir.
glasses,
Yes,
hearing
sir.
protection, DLR, and your dad, right?
Yes, sir.
Good to go.
Great. Currently, I have 0 millirem.
Disgusting.
Okay, so what I'm about to take you into is the secondary containment area, right? You'll notice that there's some locked doors and everything, like watertight doors. We do this intentionally because this is our absolute last means if something bad happened. That's where we keep it all. We keep this area at a negative pressure just to make sure we keep all containment products inside secondary containment if something were to happen.
They're growing food in the nuclear wasteland where the communities are abandoned and selling it because they're not dressed in protective suits, so it's not for an experiment. There's many examples of this. Grown food right alongside of 1-ton bags of radioactive fallout in a nuclear wasteland. In a nuclear wasteland. I got 13 viewers. And Smarter Every Day has more views on that video than I'll probably ever get on this site. So being a degenerate monster means you get more views, you make more money. I don't make any money on my videos. I do take donations.
We're going to walk
He'll
up
make
to the
12,
elevator through the operating
14,000
suite
on
because
this
there's less traffic over this way.
And before we go any farther, when you see the floor drains, don't step on those. They're a lot of times contaminated. Okay?
Why would the floor drains be contaminated?
So be looking for floor drains.
If the floor drains are contaminated, everything else is.
Can you believe this? We're in a nuclear plant as a part of the Nuclear Power Deep Dive series. I am so incredibly excited. I'm going to show you something. It doesn't seem like it could be real. It's real. This is where we're going in the next video. We're going to go over an open reactor core as they refuel it. You're going to be right there on a bridge on top of this.
So they really don't like them if they're putting them up there. You can't contain the radiation once you open it up. So he's not only sinister, he's also stupid. I don't know if I should leave the video up, because if he sees it, he might not go there. We definitely want him to go there. A significant amount of plutonium released for months, measured globally, and blanketed the entire Northern Hemisphere after Fukushima.
This thing, and we're going to get to look down into the reactor core.
Real. This
It is
not
so
AI.
incredibly fascinating. Now that we understand the radiation.
I know what you're saying. No, nobody's that evil, Dana. That's AI, Dana. No, he's actually real. Honest, I wouldn't lie.
And how contamination works, you're going to understand what it's like to walk through the plant, and we're going to see like how that reactor works, and we're going to understand it. It's so fascinating. So a big thanks to everybody that supports Smarter Every Day over at Patreon. You make this happen.
So not only does he's going to make 14,000 off this video for advertisement at least, and he wants donations. He wants people. He's got 12 million subscribers.
So very excited about this. If you would like to be notified when the next video in the nuclear power series comes out, I've got an email list. You can go to Smarter.
So you can get on his email list so you can see his next propaganda video on nuclear. It makes me all warm and fuzzy inside knowing that people like that are targeting your children 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And how many lies did we challenge him? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 18, 19, 22, 4, 6, 32, 33, 38, 42, 3, 4, 44, 46, 48, 49, 50, 1, 2, 3, 54, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 70, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 76. 76 lies in his little video. I don't know, but you're going to need a shower after that betrayal. Well, that's it. James Lucid donated 800 and Colette donated 50. We're planning on doing lectures at the university, so I got to pay for lecture halls and other stuff, right? Travel and everything else, because it's in the city quite a ways away, to educate the people that people like this actually exist, and that Fukushima was a real event, and that this planet, as my research expeditions I showed you earlier in the ocean for 6 years, we have an extinction event playing out. And of course, you know, it's been tough to raise enough money to keep this operation just functional, let alone moving it forward. The boat, I can't line up the start motor. I didn't get the pictures the other night. I sorry about that. Like the start motor, I got to rebuilt the start motor and the regulator. Regulator. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. It's a diode, right? It's stupid. It shouldn't. As far as I'm concerned, I can't appreciate why it's on the boat at all. But they're there and they blow. So all of these are working the way they're supposed to. I actually brought them back because I can't get. It turns out that my start motor, when it springs up, is getting caught on the flywheel. I don't know why. Like because the start motor has two guides, and so you can't put it on any other way but the two guides. They have to line up perfectly, and there's nothing to stop them from meshing up perfectly, right? So there's two at the top, and then on the bottom is just a band that holds it into place. For the outboard motor, look for the whales that are emaciated, and I don't mind spending the money that we're raising on stuff like that, but when it doesn't work, then that's a nightmare, obviously. And my two back drums were, yesterday when I was in the city, were making a lot of noise on the highway, so I pulled over and I was like, oh shit, is the rear end going in this truck or something? It shouldn't be, but you never know, right? Because the noise turns out to be just the rotors and the brake pads, so I ordered them in for $195. Well, I'm going to order them tonight, actually, after the show here, for $95, and shipping included, so that's a win. And we're trying to set up lectures in the city, and we're going to bring the fight to the nuclear industry. And so it makes me sick when I see people like this with 12 million subscribers. So we had 188,000 views when we started the show, basically, just before we started the show. And we've been going for 2 hours and 5 minutes or something. So 2 hours later, he's got 224,000 views. So he's got 36,000 views in 2 hours, which is more views than I get in 5, 6 months, 7 months. Because I'm not a monster, I'm a good person, and I'm honest, and I'm sincere, and I'm doing this for the benefits of everybody in every species. And it's disheartening to see. I have 17 viewers, and he had, in the same time, he had 25,000 almost. And he's an unbelievable degenerate monster. And he's promoted by the nuclear industry and YouTube and everybody else. James actually put out a song on Radiological Confidence Theater. And that was about the same guy as we covered tonight. He's linked to the same story. And so we're going to play that song. And extra hugs for James. Bless your heart, my friend. My goodness. You're special, buddy. That's amazing. We got hurdles, and that's going to help big time. I'm probably going to give up on the boat for a couple of weeks, trying to get it. But the whales are coming by. They're severely emaciated. I desperately need to be out there. But we need to bring the fight to the nuclear industry, too. And this is the breakout year for Fukushima, so I'm going to concentrate on lecture halls and telling the story to an audience, which will be bigger audience, unfortunately, than my wonderful audiences that show up to the show, which is typically from lucky 20 people. I'll get double that at the lecture halls. And hopefully the right people will watch it, the word will spread, and the world will have a conversation, because degenerates, not James, but the guy James got his picture there. These degenerates here, rather, are need to be held accountable. And James put out a great song. We'll see everybody on the next show. Hugs for everybody. Have a great night. And little birdie, I guess we'll drop him off at the vet. If the vet doesn't take him, I'm going to bring him back home and try to take care of the guy. Yeah, have a great night. Hugs for everybody. See everybody at the next show. Take care, folks. Don't forget to get over there and give James some loving and some thumbs up on his videos. Take care. So this is about the same guy as my show tonight.
We begin with a badge scan. A click, a nod, a smile. Welcome to the Radiological Confidence Theater. Behind the feltboard diagrams and dosimeter clicks, a core melts in silence somewhere no longer televised. He said, the people I know die of natural causes. That's nice. Did you check the aquifer? Did you follow the isotopes into the food chain? They teach you how to step around invisible waste, but not how to remember the people who drank it. Millirum, sparkle glass cleaner as low as reasonably achievable. MIF ghost shielding for permanent fallout. Nuclear needs offsite power to stay online. Let me say that again, the meltdown proof miracle needs a gas plant to keep the pumps running. Confidence theater powering the future with borrowed lies and diesel prayers. Destin, your humility is your superpower. I once mopped floors in uranium. How cool is that? He made radiation smell like dog poop. What a genius. They applaud for shielding. They ignore the legacy waste. They mistake theater for truth. No one mentions tailings. No one mentions the Shinkalabwe mine. No one mentions the silence in Hanford's groundwater. Just safety briefings and gear doffing choreography. You trained for 6 hours. I lived 30 years downwind. You call it controlled. I call it uncontained ritual with branding. Your smart meter says confidence. My thyroid says breach. Still needs offsite